Aloha from the almost North Shore of Oahu. I am at Kualoa Park. And, the thing is right across the street, like right over there, is where they filmed Jurassic Park. And as you can tell, today is not the perfect day to be out. And, a lot of times people will say, hey, Scott, how can I find ways to be more creative? And I'm very blessed that I have family in Kaneohe, which is about 11 miles that way. And I'm out here roughly every 90 days. And for me, it's my recharge. It's for me, it's my place that I can come and I can just think and I can get things out of my head and put them on paper. And, one of the ways that I do that is I take the trip from Kaneohe, which is that direction, all the way out to the North Shore, which is about another 25 miles that direction, but it's 30 miles an hour. It's 30 miles an hour drive. So for me to get to, let's say, like Waimea Bay or Haleiwa or Sunset or anything like that, it takes roughly about an hour. And so this is my standard gear. This is my setup. I have a Sony voice recorder. It is an ICD UX 560. Now I have like 6 of these. And if you notice, I have a lapel clip. It's a Sony. It's like $20. And what I'll do is I'll start with an intention. I'll leave Kaneohe and I'll say, hey, look, today, here's what I want to think about. Today, here's what I want to do. And so I'm working on my book. My book is coming out pretty darn soon. I'm working on my book, and there's some things that I want to add that I know I have never, ever seen salespeople, sales trainers, anybody ever talk about because they don't know. And I'm formulating while I'm driving. I'm figuring out how to say everything and how to do everything. So, I'll just hit record on my voice recorder. So, if you look on the back, see how there's 5 buttons right there? Five dots. On my number 6, I got 6 dots. And on my number 1, I got 1. I think about how to formulate what I'm going to say because each chapter is roughly 1,000 words. And I have pretty close half to 100 chapters. So that's 100,000 words. That's like a 300-page book. That's like thick. It's like a thud factor. So the other thing that I do is I'll grab like a Moleskine. It's a book, hardcover book. And then I always have a couple of pens with me, right? And so what I'll do is I will plan on this trip that normally takes an hour. I'll plan on it to be 2 hours. And I put my phone on aircraft mode. I don't want any distractions. I don't want anybody to bother me. Sometimes I'll just drive with the windows down, but not today. It's really rainy. And sometimes, I'll throw on some Hawaiian music, some Hawaiian slacky guitar, or, something similar, some classical music, and I'll just drive. And my intention is to come up with content. My intention is to come up with ideas. But for you, realistically, if you want to be creative, it's not going to happen from doing your daily routine. If you want to be creative, it's not going to happen from you doing all the same things you do. You're going to have to step outside. It's really starting to rain outside. You're going to have to step outside and do some things that you're not used to. And one of them is to seclude yourself and get back to nature. And I'm a huge fan of this. If I can't make it out to Oahu, I'll drive the hour and a half and I'll go to San Francisco. I'll drive the 2.5 hours. I'll go to Bodega Bay. I'll drive the 3 hours. I'll go to Monterey. For me, my happy spot is the ocean. You have your own happy spot. I can't tell you what that is. For some people, it's the rivers. For some people, it's the mountains. For some people, it's the desert. I'm not picking on you, but mine just happens to be, nice green locations where everybody's smiling and it's a good time. So I read this book by David Deutsch. He's a copywriter, and it's called Think Outside the Box. And it's about being creative. And so for you, you're going to have to find the place where you have flow. You're going to have to find the place where you have the ability to think. And I believe, for me, I think better wherever it's nice and green and everybody's smiling and it's Hawaii. How many times have you heard somebody go, I went to Hawaii and it was horrible? It happens, but not as many times as people say, I went to Hawaii and it was beautiful. And this has been an awesome trip. Today's been the first day that it's been pouring and raining. Part of life out here, it happens. But, for you, you're going to have to figure out ways to think through what you have going on. You're going to have to think through ways to get through your process, to come up with ideas, but you're going to have to block off some time to do it because you can't just go I want to be creative. I remember 20 years ago, I was at a friend's house. And, I'm known from some of my friends for being funny and doing stupid stuff, which I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my life, right? Can't talk about it all on YouTube. And so my friend's wife at the time came to me and she goes, hey, Scott, can I get your help writing some like birthday cards and Christmas cards, and I'll give you a cut of the money. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so she hands me like a book, and she's like, all right, get started. I'm like, it doesn't happen that way. Creativity happens when you're walking. Creativity typically happens when you're not doing something specific. Creativity happens when you're at the mall. Creativity happens when you're sitting down to lunch. Creativity happens when you're not focused on what's going to go on. So like you using your brain, me using my brain, you using your brain. Like before I go to bed, I'll say, hey, like brain, like I know this sounds pretty crazy, but I'll say, hey, brain, here's what I need you to think about tonight. And when I wake up in the morning, I keep a notepad next to my bed, and I'll write down whatever comes up, and I'll make sure to get up a few minutes early so that I can do that. But, one of the things that people struggle with is once that thought gets in their head and it goes away, it's gone. And there's been some really good thoughts and some things that I've had for my book that I'm like, oh, I'll write them down when I get back to the house because I didn't have my recorder with me. And I got 6 of these things, right? I had no excuse. I've got 6 full setups with the microphone, the clip, right? It's like you'll find excuses to not be creative. I've got 6 bags like this, like it's a Ren Spooner bag, the same company that makes all my Aloha shirts, right? And not all of the bags look like this, but a lot of them do. And like I've taken away every excuse possible to not have an excuse, and I had one, right? So these things are USB charged. So I got mini USB cables. Like this is a 1-foot cable, so I can plug it into a car charger and charge this thing while I'm driving. So I literally have no excuse. But like sometimes I'll find an excuse, right? So for you, your job is to figure out when and where you're going to be more creative, most creative, and figure out a plan so that you always have something with you to put that information down, to put something on paper to figure out what you're going to do, right? So creativity happens when you don't expect it to. I was at the mall shopping yesterday. I bought 5 new Ren Spooner Aloha shirts, and I had a pretty cool idea while I was walking out the door of the store at the Ala Moana Mall, and I'm like, I got a way to be more creative. I got a way to do something for this book that I'm working on, because I have a date in my head where this book is going to be done. I have a date in my head on paper, and I've told people this book is going to be done by, surprise for you, right? Surprise for you, not for me, okay? So you have to figure out a way to find your creative spot. You have to find a way to put stuff on paper, and it just so happens that I'm very fortunate that I have family here that I can stay with anytime that I want and come out here and think, okay? And, it's not too bad flying from Sacramento. I can get tickets for like $300. Sometimes it costs me more to fly from Sacramento to Vegas than it does from Sacramento to Oahu. So what would I do? Oahu, right? So it just makes sense at that point. So for you got to find more ways to be more creative, okay? So you got one thing to do from here, just one thing. In the box down below, you can leave a note. You can leave a question. I will get back to you. Even if you disagree with me, that's cool. I don't have a problem with that. Let's talk. Let's figure out a way for you to get better at what you do, whether it's scripting in sales, whether it's with you coming up with a new strategy, whether it's you coming up with a new promotion, whether it's you coming up with a big idea. Like one of the best guys in the business for big ideas that you can find pretty easily is Todd Brown. And I will tell you, Todd Brown's content from a marketing standpoint is pretty darn legit. I own a bunch of his stuff. And if you really, like, people will say, hey, Scott, tell me a good sales book to read. I'm like, no. I'm going to give you something different. I'm going to give you some books from copywriters. Like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, but think about this. If you are writing a copywriting message has to sell to somebody and deal with objections before they happen, because you don't have the opportunity to come back and go, well, I'm thinking this, or I'm saying this, or this is what I want to do. You literally have to think through the problem before you get there, okay? So Todd Brown has some pretty darn solid, legit stuff. Probably some of the best stuff that I've seen out there. I mean, Gary Bensavanga's got some amazing stuff. David Deutsch, David Garfinkel. I mean, I could name Kevin Rogers, tons of copywriters, right? But when it comes down to it, like, where do you get those materials without paying tens of thousands of dollars? Todd Brown has like the Big Idea Boot Camp, and I think I paid like $7 for it. It was ridiculous. It was $7 for this like 16-hour recording on how to come up with big ideas. And like, you really want to be better at sales, figure out how to do some big ideas. So there you go. Now, if you could do a small favor for me, in the box down below, leave a comment, question, or story, that'd be fantastic. We'll see you soon. Thanks for dropping by. Aloha.